So our first question is, who are the biggest specific players in the lobbying field for this industry? So first of all, I got the top 5 companies in the lobbying field of agriculture. Starting at number 1, we have Mountain Air Corp, contributing about $12 million. And Mountain Air Corp was founded in 1914 by a guy named Guy Cameron. And all of the $12 million coming from Mountain Air Farms Corp comes from the Republican Party. So coming in at number 2, we have Rays Holdings, contributing about $4 million. It was founded in 1976 by Christopher and Jude Reyes. And all of the money, all of the $4 million comes from the Republican Party as well. Coming in at number 3, we have American Crystal Sugar, contributing about $3 million. And it was founded in 1899 by Henry Oxnard. About $2 million of the $3 million comes from the Democratic Party, while the rest comes from the Republican Party. Coming in at number 4, we have Grimway Enterprises, contributing about $2 million. And it was founded in 1968 by brothers Rodney and Robert Grims. And all of the $2 million comes from the Republican Party. And coming in at number 5, we have British American Tobacco, contributing about $1.7 million. And British American Tobacco was founded in 1902 by James Buchanan Duke. And all of the $1.7 million comes from the Republican Party.
Okay, so next for my part of the presentation, I have the questions of how much money do all these companies get to spend and how do they spend it? First, for Mountain Air Farm Corp, annually they give about $12 million worth of contributions. This past year they had no money spent on lobbying or outside spending, so all of the money, the $12 million that they were given that they spent was all towards contributions. Next, Reyes Holdings. They give about $15 million worth of contributions each year, and generally in the past and this past year, mostly all their contributions go towards the Republican Party and not the Democratic or Liberal parties. Next, American Crystal Sugar. Annually, they spend about $3.3 million worth of contributions, and there's a small little portion, about $50,000 worth after that, they give towards or spend on administrative, unclassifiable, and fundraising. So generally, they give most of their money for contributions and spend the least amount, just a tiny little fraction, on administrative, unclassifiable, and fundraising. Next, we have Grimway Enterprises. They give a total of about $2 million worth of contributions each year, all going to the Republican Party. Finally, the British American Tobacco. They spend about $2 million on contributions and about $3 million each year on lobbying. So they spend more on lobbying than they do contributions, but still give a bunch of money to the Republican Party for contributions. My last question was, have any of these companies tried to influence any policy and how effective they've been? The most effective company out of these 5 has been the British American Tobacco Company when it comes to lobbying. This past year, they've lobbied for the bill of protecting American lungs and reversing the youth tobacco epidemic, Act of 2020. I think they've been pretty successful in this lobbying effort because this past year it actually just passed through the House and now to the Senate, and it looks like, from what I've read, that it's going to be passed through the Senate and become a bill here pretty soon. So I feel like they've been pretty successful in that. All the other companies that haven't been lobbying, they rely more on their contributions to get their point across to all the other things. So, yep, that's it.
Okay, so my first question is, who runs their lobbying efforts and what's their background? So out of the companies that Ben talked about, only one company's really lobbied within the past year and poured like millions of dollars into it, which is BAT, or the British American Tobacco Company. And their biggest lobbyist is named Eric Sensei Manausher. So for his background, he got a master's in business law in 1994 back in France, and then he just slowly started moving up in corporate. So he was then the director of corporate affairs for a different tobacco company called Imperial Tobacco Group, and then he moved to group management controller at Altadis, which is another tobacco company, and then finally he joined British American Tobacco in 2016. So as a lobbyist, he lobbied against the ban on menthol cigarettes. He's lobbied for lower taxes on tobacco purchases depending on the nicotine content. So he did not want taxes to be raised on it depending on how much nicotine's in the product. And then he lobbied against the teen purchase of vape products. And I would say overall this is not good in terms of greater good. I would say his lobbying efforts are good for the business, but they're definitely not good for the greater good, because it brings up the dilemma of tobacco in general just being a health concern, especially for teens. But he did lobby against teen purchase of vape products, but he also didn't want to ban menthol cigarettes. So they're going to get one or the other, but it's just bad for their health in general. And if what can or should be done is he should lean more towards vaping or encourage like alternatives like nicotine gum or patches to help people quit instead of advertising and putting out tobacco products for people to use.
So we came up with a couple of discussion questions for the class. And the first one is, do you think BAT could become more ethical and still maximize their profits? And our next question is, do you think the things BAT is lobbying for will help the agricultural industry?